Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Kibtun lil Mustaqim. Wala Rubana ila ala Dalimeen. Wa Sayyidina Muhammadin Allahu alayhi wa salam. Halim wa salim bikum. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah katu. Lil Kwani Wati fi Ifrikio Ropa wa Amerika wa Kuli Makan. Anjarama to my brothers and sisters everywhere you may be. And I was going to change up now, talk about the modern day Africans. And I've been covering the last couple of weeks now about Kemt. You know it as Egypt. And so I decided to tackle a problem or a solution for those Africans born in America and those Africans who have been living in America for most of their lives. And they don't have a quote unquote exit plan, so to speak, inside the United States in particular. And they are mired in, as you know, in a lot of difficulties. The Black power base, there's a lot of buying power in the United States. The Africans in America have a buying power. This is why you find Asians, Arabs, Toubab, Hispanics move their businesses in these areas, even with the risk of, some of the low areas, crime-ridden areas, but the money is good because the buying power of the Black man and his family inside the United States. But that's not helping him in this regard to go over the hill, so to speak, because we still have a myriad of problems and we're not progressing as we should. We've been there over 400 years now. So I wanted to look at this, present some things, and anyone who comes on, you're welcome to go into chat and put your, what your ideas are, and be respectful, of course, and greet everyone that enters into the chat. And because this is a ongoing problem that's been going on, and especially start to take hold in the 1800s, where we had our notables like Frederick Douglass, there's Padmore, there's a whole bunch of ancestral Africans born in America who were trying to devise plans to help the Black man and his family inside the United States. And this has been an ongoing process. And if you look at things, we're not progressing, but we have a buying power that's worth billions. When you really think about it, we have buying power, and that buying power should be put to use. Majority of our money is going to enrich and to fatten the wallets of the Arabs, the Chinese, other Asians, Toubab, a whole host of non-African people who are benefiting. And so our money goes to these particular people, Americans inside that country. Black people in itself are not reaping the benefits from it. So I have been harping a couple of years now about a solution to this, and I believe it's viable. And that's why I want to get your input in this. And we have to talk first about something that none of us really talk about much, and a lot of us don't really think too much about it. And when you look at the overall picture in history, even if we go back to ancient Kemt, I talked the other day, agriculture reaps millions. And this is why, this one reason why they brought us over to the United States is because of the agriculture, because the Toubab realizes it's just not only the slave labor, but you capture slaves, or what you're going to do with the slaves. The agriculture enriched the Toubab inside America tremendously. And do you know that many of the foods that you eat inside the United States, whether it's from McDonald's or Jack in the Box or Pizza Hut or so forth, we brought those materials to the United States. And we cultivated them because we were expert plantation driven Africans. Do you know we had an area what they call the Rice Coast? I don't know if many of you know about this in history. They call it the Rice Coast because it was in an area there in the Senegambia region where it was, I'm talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of hectares of land where Africans, okay, had rice farms. These are some of the things you guys don't hear much about. And the rice strains that you know today now, of course, inside the United States, of course, you know, they bring in rice from China, they bring, especially from Thailand, because I used to eat a lot of Thai rice. They bring Indian rice, they have all that, yes. But the genesis of the rice was the West African native rices that they brought to the Americas, especially to America, and they farmed it, and it enriched the Toubab tremendously. As I said, out of all these byproducts, they took that and made liquor from it. Okay, you know, whiskeys, wines, and so forth and so on. If we took that aim, we would have been on top inside the United States. But we were enslaved, and we did the work for the Toubab. The Toubab and his families and his descendants was enriched. All this money and all of this the byproducts helped to strengthen the American government. See, so we should look at that. Now, see, this is, I'm giving you this because I want you guys inside the United States and Africans who will look at this on the continent, because this is very interesting. See, because when you eat rice inside the United States, a lot of that rice is still of course, now after centuries and centuries, that rice has changed, you know, of course, because it's not African no more. But if you do a DNA analysis of it, you'll find the genesis of many of the rices is from West Africa. And they deliberately got rice farmers and enslaved them and brought them over to the United States because they were experts in raising and growing rice. See, and so it was one of the foods the slave traders brought from Africa to stay slaves, because they realized, because they had in the southern states, and we'll get into this a little bit, the southern states, there's many areas where they're subtropical, and the Toubab realized that they could grow rice in certain areas of the South, and they did. And so you have many of Uncle Ben's rice. There's a brand, I forget, there's many brands. These rices are descended from West Africa, and the Toubab became enriched from it. See, so when we look at the southern states here, you should look at and think about something. I'm going to show you a population map of the Africans in America, and let you look at something, and you'll see the drift that I'm getting at. And this should give you some indication where I believe we have hope. But we have to honor our guest who's here. Let me see who we got coming in here. We got Henry. How you doing, my dear brother? Salam alaikum. And how you doing, African royalty? Thank you for showing up. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Salam alaikum and Anjarama to everyone. Thank you very much for showing up. Our dear brother here was heading off. He's got things to do today because, you know, inside the United States, they're celebrating this particular holiday and so forth and so on for Black folk. And that's another thing why I kind of did this. Our brother here is giving his salam, and he was telling me he could not make it. And this is what we should do: have respect for one another. And when we can't do something, we give the courtesy, say, hey, yeah, look, we're scheduled to do this, but I can't do it today. There's nothing wrong with that. That's where it should be. That's respect, and that's what it should be. Now, I'm starting this here. Can the African American carve out the Southern U.S. for their own? These are questions I'm putting out to you. Is the Southern U.S. climate more suitable for the African? What would be the advantage of creating an African state, or states, I should put, in the South? These are some questions that we're laying out here today that hopefully it can help us to discern, because I want to put these things out for us, so that way you kind of know which way I'm going. When we were brought from Africa into the Americas, we were brought into the southern states. And that's a fact. So we were raised mainly in the South. Why was that? The slave owners realized that the southern climate was more ideal for the African slaves, because if they brought them to enslave them in the colder states, say slavery was all around through the United States, they would not be able to survive. They were not accustomed to that. It would take generations for the generations to get accustomed to living in cold climates. You bring an African whose genes and his immune system, all this immune system is geared towards the tropical climates. You take him from the tropics and then dump him into wintertime in New England or something like this, or in Buffalo, New York, as we know today, you're going to have problems. So the southern states was brought, and the climate and the soil composition was also ideal for that. So much so that what we find interesting, and why we should think about this, the Africans brought over rice, okra, many things, black-eyed peas, things that we eat inside the United States. And in the West Indies, we brought kidney and lima beans. This is just some. Sorghum, guinea melon, licorice, watermelon, sesame seeds. Look, brothers and sisters, we brought many things to the United States, and we have forgotten about this. And this is why I'm saying, why do you think the Toubab brought all this? They made millions off agriculture in the southern states, because the southern states and its climate and its soil composition is very close to many of the West African coastal states. And the products that you see here took off in the South. They adapted and they grew. See? And so this is why, again, we should look at this and look at this example from the past. And the Africans brought with them as slaves many crops, as I said, bananas also. Do you know that? Can you believe this? We brought also bananas. And there's a variety of banana that grows in West Africa that adapted to because bananas is a tropical, and some say subtropical growing crop. But mainly it is tropical. Now, of course, with all the advances of science and agriculture, we've gotten tropical fruits and so forth, and brought them in subtropical and some arid, very arid lands, and they have taken off and adapted very quickly. They didn't have those advances in the 16, 17, 1800s. It wasn't only until the late 1900s, okay, so to speak, that they began to really adapt. But they brought these bananas, and they brought sugar cane as well. and many other crops. And this could be the staple for the new African southern states. Because if you start taking these things and selling it, I'm telling you now, this will enrich the South. And we move in unison to the South. Okay, we move in unison to the South, brothers and sisters, where we, how can I say, we come into these states, begin to take over cities, not by the sword, okay, but by our using our buying power, and start carving out, because there's many dysfunctional cities in Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas. There's many. Louisiana, there's many. In Georgia, you remember that community that was built here about 3 years ago? They took their buying power and they got 90 acres of land. I can't remember what, it was a massive in northern part of Georgia. And a lot of the southern, of course, southern Toubab, they were very upset with that, to see Black people with this type of wealth buy all this acres of land. And they settled into a community there. There's also, if I'm not mistaken, there's another place, I don't know if I think it's Mississippi, where there's a homegrown protected community way down in the South, but they're Muslims. And they have also many acres of land and families live there. We can do this, brothers and sisters. This, to me, is our ticket to prosperity. We will not have prosperity according to the way we are today. It just won't work. One or two of us will have it. Athletes will have wealth, okay, and some other, well-noted attorneys, judges, and so forth. They'll have wealth. Majority of us will stay in the condition we are until we begin to move into areas where we come in unison and begin to work together. And the southern states is where we originated from in America. This land, we have toiled this land. The climate is more conducive for us in the southern states than California or in Missouri or in New York City and all these places like this. Those climates are harsh on us because we are still Africans. See? And so this part here can help us, I believe, to get over the hump, so to speak. We begin to move into the South and we begin to get these fledgling cities where, again, we run those cities and we start to buy up land and we start to bring more Africans into the southern states, to the point where we're the majority in most of these states, to the point where we are controlling the infrastructure, to the point that we are the policemen, we are the superintendents of the schools, we are the Congress members, majority, and we're of the parliaments in these states, where we control the things. And with the power base and money and power, we will begin to control the politics of Washington, D.C., because they won't be able to mess with us. Because when you have all this buying power and wealth in millions, especially in agriculture, which we're famous for. And when we look at the history, no one talks about these aspects. The Toubab was smart in this. He was wickedly smart in this regard. He brought us over because they envisioned that they can make money off a lot of different crops and agriculture. They first tried the Amerindian, the Indians. The Indians couldn't stand it. They got sick from the contacts with the Europeans, and they died in millions. Okay, they died. So they could not adapt to this type of environment. And so when they brought the African slaves over, they realized too that now, okay, we got this. So, let's look at other things. And they begin, brothers and sisters, to bring things, yes, also to help to feed the slaves, but also to make money off these crops, especially like rice, sorghum, licorice, watermelon, and stuff. And they start to make money off this. And they begin to get enriched. as these owners begin to buy a lot of land, they begin to bring many other things, cotton. I mean, they start introducing many things. And agriculture in the southern part is a gateway to our prosperity and power inside the United States. We cannot get power based in California or Washington State or the Northern Tier. It's not going to happen. The Toubab has those places sold up. But the southern states, we are still have a great majority of people. And I'm going to show you a chart that you may not think about because you're living inside the United States. And so you don't think about these dynamics. But I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, when you start doing research, you find out the lot of the foods that you are enjoying, it came from us. We brought that stuff over from Africa to the South. And it's really, I mean, amazing. Now, I'm showing you this chart, brothers and sisters, because I want you to look at something. Majority of black folk are not in, you would think majority of the black folk are in the Midwest or to the West or actually to the East. That's not the case. We are still predominantly in the South. Now look at this. Look at the dynamics here of the black folk, the dark green. Look, you only see little green here and there in the West, in the Midwest, and a little bit here in the North, I mean, in the East and Northeast. We're poorly represented. In the southern states, we still are, we still have great numbers. If you can see some of the totals of population. I'm hoping you understand where I'm coming from. If you begin to increase these numbers of Africans moving to the South with their buying power, and we start to take and get these farms back, why do you think the American government went out its way to destroy the American farmer? Because they realized that if the black folk start to go back to farming again, they will be able to become millionaires and will spread the wealth, and the power base in the South will attract all, because when you have money, money attracts many bedfellows. See? And so they realized that one of the things to disenfranchise us is by destroying our farms, which they did. Why do you think they went after my grandmother on my dad's side, especially my grandfather? Because in the southern parts of Kentucky, I mean, my grandmother used to call it Clan-tucky, for why you think it was called Clan-tucky. But this is, again, the southern states, the farms, the farmlands brought wealth. And this is a important aspect, brothers and sisters, that we should ponder. Because again, you saw that population chart. We're still down in the South, tremendously down in the South. Let's see here. We got here. How you doing? Carve out. What do you mean? Carve out meaning we go. Brother, I prefer. I think you're Muslim. You know the Islamic custom. You should come to chat, give your salam. I appreciate if you do this next time. If you decide to come back, but I prefer to see you do that, especially I think by your name, sorry, Nassim. I believe you're Muslim. Please give Islamic greetings if you can. Thank you. Yeah, my dear brother. Carve out meaning you go to the southern states, and let me show you what I'm talking about here. You go to the southern states of the United States and begin to buy up the fledgling cities. There's many cities that are almost, some have already defaulted. There's many cities that are just almost dead. We could go down there and buy those cities and start from that base there. And we begin to, again, go to agriculture and develop other byproducts, other systems, which makes us to gain wealth and power. So carving out is like you go to Arkansas, you go to Louisiana, you go to Texas, and especially the the core states like Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, in particular, those three are famous for the African crops that the Africans brought over to the New World. I mean, into the Americas. South Carolina as well. But the three core, Mississippi, Alabama, and Arkansas, okay, Arkansas also, and Georgia. But mainly Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia is where a lot of the African crops took off. Okay, took off. Sweet potato, yams, okra, black-eyed peas, watermelon, peanuts, all these things like this. So we carve it out by going into the South again, start buying up these cities, start creating chocolate cities, so to speak, where the majority of the cities are black, and the mayor is black, the superintendent of schools are black, the police chief is black, most of the police officers are black, the parliament, Congress members of that particular state is black, and have wealthy bases behind them, where we can command respect and also begin to dominate the politics in Washington. See, because even the when they have the Civil War, we know the causes behind that. Why do you think that the Toubab was there, did not want to give up what he was doing? Slavery, because he was making, and this enriched the Toubab, I mean, 1,000 times over, from the agriculture and the slavery, of course, but the agriculture from growing those African crops, and they became enriched. This is what I mean by carving it out. Okay, now, yeah. Okay, brothers and sisters, when we look at I say, the marketplace, the Africans are famous for marketplaces. We will have to reestablish this. I'm not trying to say that the traditional grocery stores, we should not have that. Yeah, you can have that. But the marketplace is the best thing for us as African people, because that's what we're used to. And we should go back to that, where now we have all this agriculture and we go and sell it into a big marketplace. And this will work. See, and we get our produce. The byproducts of our growing our own foods and dominating the agricultural market is this will increase our health. You look at the African slaves, as much as they worked 15, 16, 17 hours per day, they ate a lot of the things we talk about. Rice, they made whatever they could take, they made things from it. See, and the marketplace is a thing that we should reestablish ourselves back in the South, where we have every city have this type of environment, where we have marketplace where all the Africans come in and you can sell your stuff. You or sister, maybe your husband has passed on, or maybe your family's not doing well. You might want to make maybe you make dresses, or maybe you start to make socks, or you making hair things, and now you can come to the souk and you can sell your products to other Africans and make your money on a daily basis. Because when Africans, we were used to this, Africans float to the market, because in the market we can find everything. The atmosphere is African. The people are African. We have this hospitality, and there you go, and it induces us to buy. There's no shopping while black. There's no being harassed by a Toubab cop, or you're not targeted out by a Toubab cop, because the police are black. So you come into the marketplace, you're greeted by other black folk. And now you can come and buy your watermelon. You can buy your black-eyed peas. You can buy your okra. You can buy watermelon. You can buy rice, potatoes. fresh fish from the, especially from the central parts upwards. You can buy, the river fish from the rivers and stuff like this, like buffalo. There's bluegill and so forth. I remember all these because I used to eat those kind of fish many years ago when I was a little kid. When I used to bring that stuff from the South in California. And so this is, again, the marketplace is a thing that we should incorporate as we start to move into the South. We go back to African customs, the marketplace, create a big marketplace in all of these cities in the South, all of these cities. But mainly what I'm talking about, where most of our crops will be grown, again, where we can make all this money from rice, sorghum, all of that, I showed that list, is Mississippi, southern part of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia in particular, and southern parts of South Carolina. In southern parts of Arkansas, you can probably do it as well. And in other parts in Florida, as it could be feasible as well. And so we begin to, again, put marketplaces, African marketplaces in these cities, because now we have majority of Black people in those cities. This is where the future lies for us, brothers and sisters. It does not lie in Missouri. It doesn't lie in New York. We struggle. We struggle with the climate. We just struggle with the food, and we struggle with the economics. If we start to move back to the South, be surprised when the money begins to flow in. It creates many business opportunities for other Africans as the agriculture begins to really gross a lot of money. And we begin to market our products, and we're now, because majority of our crops and our wholesale goes to other African people. Yes, we will market our produce so it'll be spread around, but the money will stay in our communities. That means our communities will then have good economic basis and infrastructure. And this is what we want for our children. One of the greatest things, again, brothers and sisters, is sugarcane. Why do you think it was so much murder behind that? Huh? Why do you think it was so much murder behind the sugarcane? You look over the history, when it was brought to Hawaii and other places, it was a lot of murder behind it, because the people realized that sugarcane in itself, brothers and sisters, is enough to bring and to enrich farmers. Okay, we know that. See, we know that. And so this is a important factor, brothers and sisters, the sugarcane. And look, like what it says. See, it was actually brought to Americas in the 15th century. Sugarcane was arriving first in Brazil by the way of Portuguese trades. The first sugarcane planted in the New World was a gift from the governor of Canary Islands to Christopher Columbus. And then it wasn't brought directly from Africa, but yes, it was brought indirectly. So they took the sugarcane they got from the coastal states of Africa, okay, moved it into Brazil, and then it worked its way up finally it did go into Louisiana, and there was big sugarcane states and so forth and so on. And this again, brothers and sisters, gives you the indication that again, you don't think too much about it. You don't think about rice too much. You don't think about the watermelon. You take it for granted. You look at all these products like this, and you just take it for granted because you go to the store, you buy it, it's packaged, but look at the name on the package. See, that stuff came from us. So now let's go and start taking those things back and begin to market ourselves. I'm telling you now, it's feasible. If the African states, the African southern states, even if there's 6 or 7 of them, begin to market their products again and selling to their Black brothers in Africa and their Black brothers in the Caribbean and also South America, and we create a network, I'm telling you right now, the economic base would be powerful, brothers and sisters. It would be very powerful. And you're going to attract a lot of Africans from other parts of the world as well to come to strengthen. Now, when I say this, brothers and sisters, okay, I should have prepped this. My fault. Excuse me for this, not saying something about this. I'm talking about for those Africans who cannot come to the Americas for one reason or another. They don't want to come. They're afraid. They don't want to take a chance. They have elder parents. They have sick children, or they have other responsibilities, or maybe they have a very good job at this point, and they'll be afraid they don't have enough money to live, especially with some of the antics that's going on in some of the African states. They don't want to give us citizenship and everything else. It's scaring away the African Americans. This is by design by the Toubab, who doesn't want to see the African Americans come there. Believe it or not, they do not. They don't want you in America either, but they figured that they can control you, which is true. Because because the Americans and their power base is like the Americas. When you begin to leave, the white cop can no longer come after you and kill you and your children, or go after and target you and throw you in jail. He loses a lot of his power because now you have left the United States. Now you come. Yes, he do other things. He go to the government. There's flunkies and proxies there. He go to the government and say, look, these Negroes or these black folk, they're coming from the United States. They're coming over here. Don't give them citizenship. Yeah, you let them come. They want to stay 6 months, let them, and then throw them out. Because it's a genocidal impression, and genocidal thoughts that they have for us. They don't want to see us survive. This is why in America it is so deadly. They kill us with the food, and they kill us with the infrastructure, and they kill us with the judicial system, and in the financial system, they kill us. But when we move to Africa, it takes a lot of power, their power to govern over us, away. Because now you can walk through Accra, you can walk through the Gambia, you can walk through Morocco, Senegal. There's no more roving Toubab cop to shoot you or to take you out, coming inside your home, claiming that you were selling something and then shoot you there, or shoot you over a traffic stop when they said your lights are broken in the car, and the black lights, and they stop you and then shoot you. Okay, all that crazy stuff is going. It's gone when you leave the United States. But what I'm saying here is, I'm saying if the Africans cannot leave to come to Africa, then you're going to stay in America. I'm saying that you pick up from New York City, California, or Arizona, or any other place, and you go to the South because the climate is more suited for you and the economic potential is better. You have a nice house in Phoenix, Arizona. You sell that house and you come down where the cost of living is much cheaper, as we all know, in the South. You take that house that you sell in Los Angeles, California. You take that money from that sale. You come down to Mississippi and see what you buy with all that money you made from a house in California or in Phoenix, especially California. Now you come and buy land and you farm. Okay, and again, we make these chocolate cities, especially the core states like Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. These like this, and we begin to, in earnest, grow our own crops. And I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, we can do a lot of things. We can do a lot of things because this map here doesn't lie. You look at the bottom here, look at the sparseness of the green, brothers and sisters. We are very few of us in these states. This is why they have divided and conquered us. See, and this has helped to defeat us because most of the black people are still in the South. If you look at the bottom map in particular, we are still populated more in the South. Look at the sparseness of black folk. Now, there are a lot in the East, but not much in the West and not much in the Midwest. We have a lot in the East, but not as much as you see the dark green from the Southern states. And many of us don't realize that. We think that Los Angeles is a black chocolate city. It is not. Phoenix, Arizona is not chocolate city. Or Washington State and Seattle, or Portland, Oregon. Yes, we have black folk there. You see there. Look at Seattle at the top. Look at Washington State to your left at the top. Look at the map there. We are not, we look at that state. We only have some, like Seattle, we have a lot of black people there, but not enough. And this is how we've been able to be divided and conquered, because we have black folk scattered all across the United States. And that keeps the power base for the Toubab. But if we begin to move our wealth that we have from our most wealthiest and we begin to move down to the South and create these chocolate states, African states, we'll be able to control the politics, because we'll have so much money. We'll be able to control the politics and the dynamics in the United States. And I believe it can be done, because if you look at the model, the Toubab, again, he was a wickedly genius individual. When he came down to the South, he understood the climate there. He saw the soil and whatnot. He figured that I can bring Africans and Africans to enslave them and bring their products here. And boy, look at the sugar industry, brothers and sisters. When you see the sugar, it should be an African man name on that sugar, on that brand. It should be an African, because it's ours. When the sorghum, not maple syrup. Maple syrup is from the north, but the sorghum and stuff like that. How about all those corn products? I can remember down in the South of Kentucky. I remember when I was a little kid. I remember my great aunt used to make these corn cakes, and also the corn, what do you call it? Corn pudding. I can't recall. I mean, they did everything with corn. The white corn, I remember I saw it, and I told the story before. When I was a little boy, I was from California, and I only knew yellow corn, and I saw the white corn growing on the farm there. My great grandmother, my auntie, and her farm in Kentucky, and I seen this white, corn. So I didn't think nothing about it. When they put it on the table, I started to scream. I was a little boy, 5 years old, 6 years old, very little boy, because my mom said, "No, you eat this," and I was saying, the corn is yellow. What is this? But I ate it. I saw how deliciously it was. I mean, very sugary, because they gave it to the horses as well. But this is what I was trying to get at, brothers and sisters. My great grandmother was doing very well. If you looked at her farm was very nice. She had a moderate car and house, but she had a lot of money in the bank. And she survived the onslaught that happened in the 1920s and 30s and 40s and 50s, when they drove all the black farmers out. Why do you think they did that? Because they were all wealthy, brothers and sisters, and they were wealthy from the agriculture, and they took over those farms. See? And so only a few of them have retained that. That's why the American government is on a vindictive campaign to remove all the black farmers. They just won a lawsuit here 5 years ago, and they still have, the American government still have not paid the court-ordered fees and everything else, and punitive damages that they're supposed to give to the black farmers who they tried to destroy. So this is what I'm saying, brothers and sisters. I look at it from, I'm outside now. I'm not there anymore. I'm outside, okay? And I'm looking at the African in America, and I'm saying to myself, okay, many of them cannot leave, but they're sitting on gold mine. They have money in the, they have good jobs. Yes, they have good jobs, but they also have money in the bank, and they have a house that they can leverage, and they can go and maybe even create businesses, because we start creating businesses again. Mississippi is almost a chocolate state. We know that. It's about, I think I forgot the chart there. The chart would tell us in Mississippi. I forgot what the population is, 40 or 60%. It's a high number. Brothers and sisters, think if you start to go back to Mississippi, you sell your house in Phoenix, you go and you can damn near buy a mansion down in the South. Okay, especially Mississippi and Arkansas, and Georgia, and so forth and so on. And boy, I mean, you can really, really do well. And you have farms, and you have these, as everyone begin to grow food, and we have a marketplace. I'm telling you, the wealth. This is why the government is adamant about destroying the black farmer, because they know that the economic well-being for us is back in agriculture. It's in the South. It's not in the West, brothers and sisters. As you look at this map again, The bottom part is very, very, it shows you we're very sparsely populated in the West. In the Midwest, we're more populated to the east. But look at all the dark green. We're still in the southern states. See? And we should take advantage of that. We should take advantage of that, brothers and sisters. Our black farmers down in the South are like this. Okay, they have, acres of land. They have a lot of land. And the American government is after them a lot. But we still have farmers that you would not think have no money, but they have money. And they're doing well. But many of them are not doing well because they've had a lot of problems. And the American government, well, there's a farm that's maybe, a couple of miles away, and they're Toubab. The government, when there's a drought or there's a famine or there's bug infestation and they lose their crops, the American government is right on the spot to help those white farmers. But when the blacks who are just disaffected, the man, his property is over to the east of his, he gets subsidized by the government, but he doesn't get subsidized. This is what the American government was doing to our farmers until they sued. And it took many, many years. They won because the evidence was so overwhelming. But again, brothers and sisters, I'm not trying to say all of us to be farmers. No. But if we go back and we have a base of agriculture, we'll make money. That will create money and it'll create jobs. And not only that, it'll create an infrastructure where you, who is an accountant, now you can open up a business of taxes. You can open up something like this. And you can live in an environment that you can raise your children in. Because now you don't have this worry anymore, because you're not going to be stopped by the roving Toubab cop. When you go to school, your children won't come back and say, "Daddy, this white teacher, what they said to us, what they said about us black people." You won't have that kind of problem because now you have black folk running the show, and this is indicative of us. We need that. Now, with that point in mind, brothers and sisters, let me make something clear to you. Now, I'm not talking about a racist, genocidal racist solution. I'm not saying that. I've talked about this before. I'm not saying that. We're universal people. We're going to have Toubab who are born and raised there, and especially the young generation. You heard me say before, many of them hang around black folk. We have a lot of interracial marriages. We have a lot of things going on that didn't go in my generation, but the younger generation are more tolerant. We know that. Benevolent white folk, Arabs, Mexicans, I don't care. Anybody can live with us. We're very benevolent. Now, I'm not trying to say that they can come in and play games. No, they can come live among us, no problem, as long as they toe the line. We don't want, like we say, this happened in Abuja in Nigeria, where we had Chinese come into Abuja and into Lagos and then open up stores and tell you as a black man, you and your family can't shop. We ain't gonna pull that. If they come to these southern states that are ours and they say, "Hey, look, I want to live here," then they open up their markets, no problem. We go and patronize them, there's no problem. And they live among us. But if they turn around and say, "Okay, I'm gonna come here in Jackson, Mississippi," and then when they see black people, they say, "No," they put a sign up talking about, if you're a black man and you and your family, you can't shop here. We ain't gonna have that. We're not gonna play that. Mexicans or anybody else who are not Africans, if you want to come live with them, we accept you. But if you're gonna come in there and thinking you're gonna play games, it's not gonna work. So we want anybody to come live among us because we will take everybody in. Everybody can help us to prosper. We want them to come. Got a comment here. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you, my dear brother, for showing up today. And I really appreciate this. And I'm very honored to see you come in here today. Thank you very much, my dear brother. So now the agriculture would keep money flowing within the Southern African states. You heard me say it could become a world leader. Do you know if we begin to sell a high quality rice and we start to sell it to our African brothers here on this continent, instead of them taking the Thai and Chinese and Indian rice, they start to take their brothers' rice from the States. Do you know what that would garner? Rice is a big producer, and it garners millions. Rice by itself. It could become a world leader in many crops, creating jobs from finance, banking, and lending to African citizens. When you have all this money popping in to Jackson, Mississippi, say for instance, from all of this agricultural wealth, now the city is enriched. The homes are now at a price to where they are at a very low price where people could come and buy, and they invest in the community, and you will have a good life. Even Jackson today, we have, I think, 60% in Jackson, Mississippi, but the infrastructure is still run by Toubab. And we still have a lot of problems outside of Jackson, and there's other problems in the South. You're going to have that. But if you start to move in unison and we start to move into the South in droves, I'm telling you right now, we can make headway because we still have farmers in the South. And we can start also bringing in we got African brothers today in the South who still are experts from generations of rice. We start to induce our Black brothers to come, say that they want to. They come into, say, Alabama. And we have brothers who have big farms and they want to produce rice. Why don't you go and hire the experts? Not a Toubab, but you go get an African brother who his family has been raising, planting rice and is an expert in rice for many generations. You have this brother come over. Maybe he's there for 6 months or whatever. You induce him to come. And with your buying power, now you can get visas for Africans to come to live among us in the southern states. There's a whole new world that can be generated from your buying power, from your economic wealth that you get from agriculture and from you carving out the southern states, brothers and sisters. Fishing and fresh water. Fish, crabs, all that. We're good at that. We're good at cooking. You know that. When we start to have beautiful cities, others are going to come flocking in for vacation. They'll go to our hotels. They'll come into our cities, right? They'll come into our marketplaces to buy. They'll come and eat in our famous restaurants where they'll eat our food, our kind of food, right? They'll come to buy our products. I'm telling you right now, brothers and sisters, it can work. This is why the American government is in the business of keeping you separated there in the United States. Keep you separated, keeping a majority of you to an extent to the South. But the wealthiest of us are in the North, okay, in the Midwest, especially in the West and the East. And we are wealthy, but we're struggling. And most of us are struggling. Start to move down to the South. How many brothers have you heard who were struggling in LA, moved to Jackson, Mississippi, and the money they had, they began to live very well. They could not buy a house there in California in a good area for $50,000 US, say for instance. But they come to Jackson, Mississippi, and they find them a beautiful brick house for $45,000 to $50,000. You see what I'm talking about? Now you take your house that you have there in Los Angeles is worth $350,000 or $400,000 or maybe even $500,000 US. You take that sale, you got $500,000 in your pocket. You move to Jackson, Mississippi. Okay, and then now you say you think, okay, look, I want my future generation. I think I have a good idea here. I got all this money now. You buy you a big ass place, okay, with nice land, and you have acres of land, say for instance. Now you put farmers on it. You understand? You see, it's a lot of things you can do, and you will reap the benefits from that, because the agriculture is a dominant money producer, and it always have. We should go back into that. This is why I said, brothers and sisters, the American government is in the business of trying to stop you from farming. There's a reason for that, isn't it? If it didn't work, they wouldn't care to say, oh, you come down to Jackson, you come down here to Arkansas, you come down here to over here, come over here, no problem, go ahead and put your farm. But they know that the farm generates millions per year, each farmer. He has products. And we reintroduce the land with the, say, rice again. I thought about this the other day. Remember I was talking about the fonio rice that the doggone people seem to be in possession of. Remember I told you about that is in Mali. The grain, nobody understands where it came from. The doggone people, you heard me talk about them, who was the masters of the interstellar space, who charted it out and so forth and so on. They have this rice they call fonio rice, which is a mystery. It's an absolute mystery. And the doggone people planted it, and it did. Some others took it. As, I think some Fulani who were foot to Toro, they did grow the fonio rice. Now, I wonder if it may grow in the southern parts of the United States. I wonder. This rice has a big yield. This rice has a delicious, wild, from what I understand, a barbecue smoked type taste to it. They say this rice produces a nice fragrance that's similar to the Thai jasmine rice. Remember in Thailand that everybody buys now. You see the Thai farmers, they're making millions per year selling their rice, this jasmine rice. We all eat it. I eat it. Especially when the first time I start to eat it in the United States, the jasmine, I start to buy it only. We can produce this type of rice, especially the fonio rice, if we find the right area that could grow it, because it doesn't grow everywhere. But perhaps it may take off in the southern United States. But you understand my drift, what I'm trying to say to you, because it's important, brothers and sisters, that we look at every avenue. What can empower us? This talk here is for those Africans who cannot come to the continent. They cannot, for whatever reason. They don't want to come because they were born in the United States. They're afraid. There's uncertainties here, which it is true. They have family there. They're afraid they don't want to lose their families. We have Africans still want to come to the United States to live, to go to school. If they begin to see their Black American brothers prospering in those southern states, they'll come and bring some of their expertise, and especially our Nigerian brothers who are very good in business. Our Nigerian brothers begin to come because we have a lot of Nigerian brothers in LA and New York and other places. And the brothers they have a business sense. They came and they opened up something and made millions. Okay. And became wealthy and so forth and so on. Those brothers begin to come down to the South. We use their expertise to help us in the business end. There's a whole new world that you could create in the southern part of the United States if we have enough of us to do it, and we have the gumption enough, and we think of it, and we look at our past ancestors and see what they did. All you have to do is look at the Toubab brothers and sisters, look at the Toubab and see how crafty he was, because he said he figured it out. He said, let me put all of this here, stuff we take for granted: rice, okra, black-eyed peas, cassava, yams, kidney, lima beans. There's peanuts. All of this stuff, brothers and sisters, produce millions. And I'm telling you, how did the Toubab become rich? Did he come rich because slaves were walking around? No, because they had plantations. That's why they call it plantations. And they had crops, sugarcane. They had rice farms. They had sugarcane rice farms. They had other types of farms where they were mixed. Some they have rice here, they have watermelon over here. They grew things so they can make honey and so forth. And then they created sorghum. There's a lot of things, licorice. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do. This is just a smidgen of some of the things, brothers and sisters, that we brought over to the Americas, and it made the Toubab wealthy. And we should go back to that. We have now, this is here, we have African Americans are starting to do some things. They're starting to go and now plant. They start to buy land because it's cheaper in the South, and they start to build and start to make farms. And I'm telling you, we have that. We have one community in Georgia, as you heard me say earlier, that they decided they got tired of the West. I mean, living in the West and so forth and all the problems. They took their buying power and they bought, it was 230. It was 90 families. It was 90 families. They bought 230 acres of land. I can't remember. It was some astronomical amount of land they bought. And these 90 families portioned off to, was it 230 acres? It was a big, 250 acres. It was a big land. You see what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters? And from what I understand, this community is doing very well there, very well. And there's many applications for people to come in there. I don't know what's going to happen if they allow more families to come. I'm not sure, but this is what I'm talking about. Africans living in America are leaving Missouri and other places, leaving even like some parts of Texas, going into the deeper South, and they're buying land, cheap land, in areas where the city is very impoverished. They come buy land in there and they begin to farm like their ancestors farmed when they were slaves, and now they begin to plant and do things. It's starting to happen, brothers and sisters. It's starting to happen. We got people here. I see. Yes, that's a great idea. Investment in rice. We laugh at this. You think about, we laugh. You talk about rice. We eat. Everybody eats rice. Who don't eat rice, huh? I don't care where you at. You're in India. You in China. You in Ghana. You sitting in Morocco. You sitting in Egypt. You go in Tanzania. You go to South Africa. Everybody, the brothers in Jamaica. All black folk have some recipe for rice. Isn't that true, huh? Because I remember my mom used to make, rice puddings. My mom used to make a whole bunch of other stuff out of rice. We laugh about that, but it makes millions. Those poor, backward, some of them there in Thailand. I was there in Thailand in 1996. And I went a couple of times from 1996, 1997, and 1998. I went back and forth in Thailand. I went from north to the south. I studied a lot of things, and I told you where I saw the black people down in the south. It was from they were Africans, but from the Andaman Islands. I saw them. I was in the north because I wanted to see what was happening. I found, very uneducated, Westernly wise, but they had rice farms, jasmine rice farms. Those so-called uneducated northern Thailanders, right? Thais. They're making millions from growing rice alone. Jasmine rice is everywhere in the world today, brothers. We eat it here. We eat it here in Morocco. You even eating it there in Ghana. Remember when the Thais brought their strain because the African rice was dying out? They brought a strain of the jasmine rice and they began to mix it with the homegrown West African rices so our rice farms can come back. You see? So it's a good investment. If black brothers in the sport accept to invest in rice farming in Africa, that would be a great step into liberating our black nation. Yes, it would, my dear brother. What we're talking about now is our brothers who are left behind, because the slave trade killed us. No doubt about that. Okay? The Toubab was wicked. He knew what he was going to do. He didn't list the family names of us when they took us. Okay? Our ancestors. He didn't name that. He didn't even tell you where you came from, your ancestors came from. So he left you blind in the United States. He left you blind to what he had done to make his millions. Even though you were there because of your plight, you didn't see what was going on. So we're talking with those Africans who cannot come back to the continent, that they come back to learn from their ancestors who raised food there in the South, in the southern states, United States. This is what we're talking about at this point. African brothers, what I'm talking about in this sense, my dear brother, is we have experts rice farmers here all through the Senegambia region, right? Because this is an area that the Toubab they call it the rice, I forgot what they call that. The rice, they had a name for it, because when they came to take slaves, they found black people from Guinea all the way across. I forgot, it was a large area, and we had rice farms. Not only did they take the slaves from there, they took the rice as well with them to the United States, and they planted this rice there in the United States, and it became the staple that Uncle Ben's rice and all these other, they took our rice and made millions, and now when you go and eat Uncle Ben's rice, okay, It originated from Africa, from our brothers toiling the soil. It's our rice. See? So this is what I'm talking about. Those African brothers come over with their expertise in raising rice, right? They come help their African brothers there in Alabama, Mississippi, in Georgia, and northern part of Florida, and so forth and so on, and begin to help them to farm. Maybe some may come to want to live now there as well. This community would blossom. And this is what we're talking about right now. I'm sorry, wrong emotion. Okay, no problem, dear brother. We here at China, India are making tons of money. The rice exporting branch. Yes, we know that, don't we? Us here on this continent, you can't help it. You go, you see rice everywhere. The African rice that we know is just about gone because the colonial periods destroyed it. The African farmers, because of the slavery, they took our expert rice farmers and sent them to the United States as slaves. They destroyed the rice plantations. It was for a reason. And since our rice market in West Africa in particular is so poor, it opened up the door for the China, India, and especially the Thai rice. You find jasmine rice everywhere now. See, and that's why I said people may laugh. Oh, rice, ha ha ha. Those people, uneducated people who were in Thailand when I met, they could not read and write, but they were millionaires because they had rice farms and they sold jasmine rice, and they had many acres. Some had hundreds of acres of land of rice alone, and they were millionaires. So I wouldn't laugh when you start talking about rice. If you look at the Toubab was smart. When he enslaved us, he took our best from West Africa and sent them to the Americas. And they helped to grow rice there. He made millions. That Uncle Ben's rice that you eat is ours. Now, they might take other strains now from, I'm talking about the original rice. And some of the strains that are still there in southern parts of the United States today are related to the African rice. So when you look at it and you start to laugh, don't laugh. Because brothers, that rice is a moneymaker. And the Toubab was clever. He knew what he was doing. He took our best rice farmers and enslaved them, and he took our rice strains from West Africa. That's helped to kill our lands. They took the rice from us and brought it over to the southern states in the United States, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, northern part of Florida, some parts of Arkansas, also my understanding, Louisiana. Now, let's look at something else, sugarcane. The southern parts of Louisiana, they've been killing for hundreds of years over sugarcane because sugarcane is another makes millions. You see the caption I had about the sugarcane, how it got there. We grew that, and we know there's the sugar from that. From the sugar cane, we get sugar, and we get sorghum, and we get molasses from that. Everybody eats sorghum, especially in the United States, and it's mixed in with cookies, everything, cakes, and everything inside the United States. Don't laugh when you get so you grow rice, you laugh. Oh, you want to grow sugar cane? They're making millions. Same way in Arizona and the dry southern west states. The dates. You laugh at the dates. Do you know the date farmer, what they make? The Toubab, again, was clever. He took the strains from Saudi Arabia, who first introduced the dates to us in California and Arizona, right? They begin to germinate and they begin to mix them and so forth. One of the leaders of the world today is in Tempe, Arizona, of dates. And don't laugh. Agriculture is a moneymaker, brothers and sisters. Big moneymaker. Red bone. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I understand what you're telling me. Yes. Okay. You're light skinned for 40. Okay. No problem, brother. Yeah. The red bone. Yes. Stone from Africa brought to America, mostly in North Carolina. Yes. Yes. I saw some articles about the for 40 people are. You should see some of my tapes. I talk about them. Because I'm Fulani myself, and there's a lot of mixing, and we have a lot of things because you have the Fulani from the Sudan. They have their own dialect. You heard me talk to Messina dialect of Mali a lot. So we have we have dialects, of course, inside Nigeria. And we have many in Guinea. We have dialects of Fulani dialects, and we have differences, and so forth and so on. So there's a lot of things that is, that we have. A special way of farming rice. That is why took them to America. Yes, just what we talked about. Yes, and this is what I'm trying to say, brothers and sisters. We bring the expertise back to the United States, and we go and start to the South. You can buy land very cheap there, brothers and sisters, and we have money in the United States. And we go to the South. I'm going to tell you right now, we can create our own empires in the South, where there we will start to be able to control the politics. Why? We will not need many subsidies from the U.S. government. We'll have so much money coming in that we won't need that. And we'll be able to control our own destinies. And not only that, our health. When we begin to eat our own products, this will help again, brothers and sisters, to strengthen our health. If we start to go back eating where most of our ancestors ate, most of our ancestors, we ate between 60, maybe 70% of vegetables and fruits, and we had meat, of course, but the meat and everything today is contaminated, and many products we have is contaminated. But we had a diet that was rich in rice and other things. Okay, dasheen, we had bananas, and then when pineapple was brought over, we grew that. We have chocolate. We start to eat all that, and that's why our health was good. The Toubab knew that when they took us. You think he took sick people? He didn't. He took robust black folk, and he didn't understand why they were so strong. You read some of the journals of the slave masters. And when the Portuguese came, the Portuguese knew, because Portuguese had been taking African slaves in the 1400s, the mid to late 1400s. They began to take African slaves from the West Coast and even Morocco. They found black people to be very robust. When the Toubab understood that, as he began to come there, he said, okay, what makes them so strong? He found out they eat okra. He found that they were eating rice. He found that they were eating black-eyed peas. He found that they were eating many other things. And they were making things out of rice. They were making things out of milk from the Fulani and eating the meat and so forth and so on, made the Africans very strong. So the Toubab saw that. So the Toubab said, okay, I'm going to get these farmers and put them inside the United States so I can make millions. So they begin to import all of this stuff into the Western states. This is what I'm trying to say, brothers and sisters. The answer is there. It's there. So when we laugh about these foods, I hate okra. Do you know the money? The Toubab was clever. He knew, and he made sorghum. Sorghum is $1 million business. Sugar cane, white sugar and its byproducts, millions are earned by people from that trade. Watermelon, we laugh at that. There's products that Africans make out of watermelon. Everybody eats watermelon. Licorice, sesame seeds, and so forth and so on. These peanuts, peanut butter, right? Peanut butter is a big, big money maker as well. Brothers and sisters, the southern states are there for the taking because we are already populated. There's more of us in the South than is still in any other parts of the United States. And the proof is that the census that was taken here, this is, I think, 2020, 2021, which is only a couple years away. You look down, especially at the bottom map here, The concentration of black folk in the green is still in the South. We're scattered everywhere across the United States, but look, very little here and there, very little here and there. But look how concentrated it is in the deep South. There's a message there that we have. There's a message there. We should take that example and use it and go back to the South and get these states and make these states our own without fighting, without terrorism. No, we're not talking about that. We use American buying power, our money. Why, again, everybody touts the black man to take money from us because we have buying power. We have enriched everybody inside the United States. The Arabs come over, we buy their jewelry, we buy many of the products, the Armenians and everything else. Brothers buy gold and all kind of stuff. We have money. And that money is just not enriching us, but it's enriching everybody else in the United States. This is the problem. But when we move to the South, now we start to enrich one another. The money I'm making here, I just got something where I can open up a business, maybe for my son. My son said, look, Dad, I don't want to be a farmer, but hey, I love gold. He opens up a business where he sells gold. You understand? Maybe my daughter said, Dad, I don't want to be on a farm because, she's modern. But farm is here. I have people working on a farm, so to speak. I'm retired. I have a farm. I'm making good money now. My daughter says, look, Dad, I want to do this. I want to sell, perfumes. I want to sell this and that. You see what I'm talking about? There's many things, brothers and sisters, happen when you have a good financial base. We can control our own markets. Right now, our money is enriching everybody. Even the Chinese move into our communities. They make money. The Jews have always made money off of us. Everybody makes money off the black man. The only one that don't benefit from it is other blacks. That's the problem. It's because we are scattered. This is why, brothers and sisters. But when we are down in the southern states, that money stays there and enriches other black folk. We can be very, very powerful economically. Very, very powerful. How you doing, my dear? Sister, how you doing, my dear sister? Thank you for showing up today. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm honored that you came today. Thank you very much, my dear sister, for showing up. Those are staples that most of us in America. Yes, it's funny, isn't it? It's funny, my dear sister, isn't it? We take it for granted when we eat that rice, Uncle Ben's rice and so forth, huh? And when we take that sugar that came from our folks, okay, when we brought that sugar cane over, and we brought the watermelon and okra and all that, black eyed peas, all that, we brought it over. We brought it over from the continent over to the South. The Toubab wasn't laughing. He knew what he was doing. See, but we are blinded because what has happened to us, yes. But now we should open up our minds. And how do we enrich the black man who cannot come to Africa? How do we enrich him and his family there in the United States? Go back to the South. Go back to the South and open up those farms, okay? And start bringing things back in it like this. See, and this is what, again, this is a very important factor. Very, very important factor. And I'm hoping, brothers and sisters, that you guys kind of get my drift, what I'm talking about, because it's important, brothers and sisters, that we have that. Walaikum salam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, my dear sister, for showing up today. I appreciate it. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you very much for showing up. So we have a good base now of what we talk about here, and maybe brothers see this in the future here. That it gives something to think about, because we have the area that we can carve out the South. It's there for the taking, because there's many cities that are absolutely poor. Okay, absolutely poor. And we can take it over because we have buying power. And this is what I'm talking about. Now, when we have buying power, the protection for the new states, because of buying power, because we have all this money now, we have clout, it protects the black man and his family. It recruits other Africans now who have expertise in law and other things. See, they begin to move to the South. Now they see the prosperity because they see now the new chocolate cities. They see how the life is there. They begin to move. The infrastructure experts, because now it's a lot of money. We need to learn how to invest this money. The agricultural gurus also will be in the mix. It can happen, brothers and sisters. It can happen. The South is ready to be taken. We have fledgling cities all through the South. Those cities can be bought at a very low price. They already did that in Georgia. They bought 250 acres of land. 90 families did. 90 families got together and bought 200. I'm trying to remember now because it's been some years ago now. 5 years, something like this. In northern Georgia, you guys can look it up to find out. I can't think what they call their community, but they got all these acres of land and it took off. Brothers and sisters, the South is there for the taking. The African marketplace in all cities, we go to African customs, and when we have farmland that's everywhere, our farmers they say they export products, say tomatoes, I'm just for instance. We have strains here in Africa of tomatoes that are very strong and delicious. We know that. So our African experts in farming now come to the Americas with some of these strains of the tomato. I know you will laugh at that, but tomatoes are $1 million maker as well. I wouldn't laugh. You take that tomato, those strong varieties where it wards off drought, disease, and insects. You bring it to the southern states, grow it. It takes off. Now, it creates jobs. It creates brokers who then sell these products and brings people from all over the world to come buy your tomatoes there in Mississippi. The broker has a job because you prosper in your farms and agriculture, and we're making millions there in the southern states of the United States. The big brokers come to now want to sell your products to the world stage. Brother, sister, it can happen. If you look at the Toubab right now, Tempe, Arizona, you laugh at dates. Dates is $1 million maker. People don't work anymore. They sell their dates and they get their yearly, and they make, a lot of money from dates. See, we should look at that. We should look at that and go from there. Africans were responsible for agricultural growth in the United States. It's a proven fact. They would not have had this type of wealth and prosperity without the Africans growing the products. It wasn't the Toubab who was experts, because the Toubab did not have okra. They didn't have black-eyed peas and watermelon. Oh, these are all tropical, subtropical products, right? See? So the Toubab was not an expert in growing that. We were. This is what I'm trying to say. Look at the common sense here, brothers and sisters. Okay? Look at the common sense, what I was talking about. The sugar cane is not from France. It's a tropical, subtropical plant. This is what we're talking about. And so, and the slave law, it brought millions, and we have rich families from agriculture. They're all over the place. Now they branched into liquor, they branched into many other things. They bought things, but the prime facie where they made their money, the plantation was agriculture, brothers and sisters. You think about this. Why did you think they were into the killing market? They came in and took the best rice farmers. It killed our rice markets there in here on the continent in West Africa. It killed it because they took all our rice farmers, and they took our strains and they burned up many of the fields, rice paddies as they call those, and they took our strains of rice and they put them in the southern states. And our African brothers who were enslaved grew that stuff so the Toubab can make millions off the rice. Uncle Ben's rice. Remember that brand there with the shows of the black servant on the picture? You know, it's a degrading thing, but they want to make sure that you see what I'm talking about. You know, they want to show you, yeah, they took our rice, made us cultivate in the United States, and they made all the money from it. There's lessons to be learned from that, brothers and sisters. So, and reaching back to the past and using our ancestral expertise on agriculture, the American government knows that. Why do you think they're fighting to keep you from going to Africa? Why do you think they're fighting you from going to the South? Why do you think they're fighting you there in the United States to take away your farms? He knows that once we go back into this business of farming again and agriculture, and we start to do this, Subhanahu wa ta'ala will see now that we're trying to uplift ourselves, he will bless us. And it can work. Oh, excuse me here. I didn't mean that. I hit something here. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, in 19, we have rice farming. Yes, in Morocco. Yes, rice farming is everywhere. That's why I say we all laugh. But you tell me who don't eat rice. Rice is eaten everywhere in the world. There's places where you can't grow the rice. They have to import the rice. I'm telling you, we have rice areas in the southern states that are still viable today. And we have rice farmers who make millions, mostly Toubab. We can buy many other areas and do the same thing. Go back to what it was before. Instead of us, now this is our land, our money now. Not working for the Toubab, but this is our land and whatnot. And I believe too, if we go back and come to the continent and take the African strains in West Africa in particular and bring them to the southern states, because we still have rices here that are very strong from drought, from insects, and I mean they're very, 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 very sturdy. So you can't destroy. Bring it to the South, United States, and it'll work because it already worked. And this is what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters, because this again is only for those Africans who cannot come to the continent. This is for those Africans who want to go to the United States. Those Africans from Nigeria, or from Ghana, or from Togo, or from the Senegambia region, Senegal. We have rice farmers in Senegal. All those brothers, you decide, look, hey man, I don't want to live here in Africa. I want the Western life. Okay, we're not here to fight you for that. So you go to the United States. Why are you going to go to New York City and drown out? This is what happens to Africans. They leave their base and they decide they're going to try to make it in the big cities, and many of us fail. When you had expertise on growing yams, you have expertise growing, cassava and dashing and bananas, and you leave that to come to New York City to go work somewhere for pennies. When you can take your money that you have and maybe take a couple of strains of maybe yams and stuff that you have, and maybe rice and some other things and okra, reinvest that back inside the United States, where you buy some farms there, and you from Senegal, you want to come to the United States, you go to the South and you buy land and grow food. Brothers and sisters, it can work. The Toubab became millionaires because of agriculture. It's there for the taking in the South, brothers and sisters, because why? The South is struggling tremendously now. You can take land there very cheap. I told you right now. I know some brothers way back here, they sold their house in LA. It was at that time it was almost 200,000, 220,000. They were tired of living in the racist state of California, and they moved down to Mississippi. They took that money and they bought them a place that was out of sight. Beautiful, big old brick home and acres of land on top of that. And they took some of the land, parts of the acres, and they grew farm products. And I'm trying to remember now, brother, what he was growing. I want to say tomatoes and onions. I can't remember now, but he started to make money. So he didn't have to work anymore. He had money saved up. He was making dividends off his money in the bank. Plus, he was making off his farm products. You see, brothers and sisters, this brother left from Los Angeles, sold his home, went down to Mississippi, bought him, a lot of acres of land, beautiful brick home, and he started to make money off agriculture. I think it was tomatoes and onions. I'm trying to remember now, but he started to make a lot of money from that. He didn't have to work anymore, meaning he worked on his farm only. He didn't have to go work in the city. He worked on his farm. It's there for the taking, brothers and sisters. It's there for the taking. It's there. Okay, yeah. Oh no. Okay. The rice. We've been talking about this now for over an hour. The rice cultivation. That's got to be pushed. It's got to be pushed, brothers and sisters, because this here, again, I know some people will laugh. But, when that rice you eat, you laugh and giggle. You just take it for granted. But you notice something, rice is eaten everywhere, but not everybody can grow good rice. And rice garners money. Brokers come to your rice plantations and they sell your rice because it's the market for rice is everywhere in this world. Everybody eats rice. Especially when your black brothers, maybe in the Caribbean, your black brothers here on the continent know that you got a product sitting in Mississippi, he start buying from you. You take your money and start buying stuff from him. Okay? You see, this is how it starts. And we can do it. So how can we bring home the African living in the North? Recruitment drives and committees focus on creating a new Southern African states. It can happen, brothers and sisters. There was about 10 years ago now, because I was here, maybe I was here almost near 10 years myself. I read this article talking about this one brother, what he was doing. He had analyzed some southern states. I can't remember if there was, I think there was some southern part of Louisiana and Alabama. I can't remember now. And he found many cities that were not solvent now. Some of these cities, some black folk and Toubab together bought these cities for pennies. He was trying to get African Americans, which he did. He got some African Americans to come live in these areas. So they have already started brokers to bring brothers with many expertise to the South. So we start to have communities now popping up, like in Georgia, 250 acres of land, 90 families bought 250 acres of land. See, and we have other African Americans have done the same thing. I heard there's a community of Muslims down in, I want to say Mississippi, southern part of Mississippi. They bought a lot of acres of land. They've been there years now. And he put their own community there and so forth and so on. Why they didn't do that in California? They cannot. And they're growing their own food and everything. And they're exporting a lot of products. You see, brothers and sisters, again, this is for the Africans who cannot leave the United States and don't want to leave the United States. And the Africans who are on this continent who don't want to live here anymore. They want to live in the West. So you go to the South and go live with your black brothers down in the southern states, and you guys get together with your expertise. Maybe we have a brother from Nigeria. He's living in Lagos. He's got good education, but he don't want to live there. He went to school, say, in England, but he don't want to live in England. He wants to go live in the United States. He's an expert in finance, got his degree in that, in economics. Now he comes to the southern parts of the United States, team up with another black brother, and open up a business, and so forth and so on. That's what we should do. This will empower us. This is what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters. So I'm about ready to close here, but I wanted to get these things out to you to show you that we can do this. We can carve out the southern states and make it our own, and we can prosper, brothers and sisters. It's there in the making. This is a farm here that the family brought, and they left from the north and they came to the south and decided they want to do exactly what I'm talking about now. And they brought acres of land and they began to plant, and they start to make money, brothers and sisters, and they begin to hire a lot of other people to farm on their land. See, it's there for the making. We have traditional African Americans as well who have been generations, like this, the father and the son here, generations have owned acres and acres of land, and some are doing very well, but the government has destroyed many others. But now, since the lawsuit was won, the American government is going to be hard pressed to go after all the black farmers, because they still owe black farmers a lot of money from punitive damages for destroying our farms. And now they've made it to the point where they've opened up the southern states for easy land purchases. See, this is what we're talking about. And then you go down to the south after you sell your home in New York City for 300, 400, 500,000 US dollars. You go to the south and buy a mansion, and you have 6 acres of land. You grow and you start growing rice, okra, and black-eyed peas, cassava, yams, kidney beans, sugar cane, if you live in certain areas where you can grow sugar cane and whatnot. Brothers and sisters, it can work. Or you buy, again, brothers and sisters, we know too, we're experts in cattle, the Fulani. Do you know that the Fulani, the Toubab was clever. When he began to dismantle the Islamic states in West Africa, many of the Islamic states, they have who in them? The Futafula. He knows the Futafula are experts in cattle raising. The Toubab in many southern states had cattle. So what did he do? When he went to the Portuguese brokers who went inside the inland part, because we had traders, we had these treacherous Africans who worked with the Toubab, and they said, look, I got an order now. I need 30 Fulani who are experts in raising cattle. These treacherous turncoat Africans will go in the interior, into the savannah region, and take many Fulani out. That's how my mother's people basically came out, because she was Moroccan, but she was half Amazigh and Fulani. But this is what I'm saying. The brokers come and they took many Fulani. There's many Fulani inside the United States. You'd be surprised, brothers and sisters. Woo-wee, there's many Fulani descendants in the United States, because the Toubab was smart. They had cattle farms. They needed people who were experts in cattle. What did they do? What did they do? They came and took the Fulani to raise the cattle. Brothers and sisters, you have to look at what the Toubab has done. It was wicked taking us, yes, but you got to look at their models and what they did and how they made their millions. We can reciprocate that, not with slavery. I don't mean that way, but we can take the southern states over again, because it's there for the taking, brothers and sisters. The southern states are ready to be taken, because the South is struggling big time, and the land is cheap there. And I suggest that those who don't want to come to the continent, you go carve those states, because you carve those states out. This will help you prosper in the United States. And I will say this thing again here where we had, if you look at that chart at the bottom, you see we're already have a large population. Now we need more, the right African Americans to come to help us. And we start to buy up like that those families did from the north. They came to Georgia and bought all those acres of land. We need that now. We need brothers from California with expertise in many things. We need brothers from other parts. They come in and buy land, and we begin to farm again and produce all of the stuff we talked about today, and it'll work. Because when we laugh about okra, why do you think the Toubab took it, huh? Yes, to feed the slaves because we were used to this, but he made millions off that, didn't he? How did the slave owners make their money? Through agriculture. See? And we have to look at that, brothers and sisters. Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, my dear sister. The Fulani element inside the United States is massive. You know, when I looked at my community, it's funny. Around the corner, when I was in Compton, California, around the corner, I had a dear sister, 5 years old, go to school together. I've been knowing her since I was 5 years old, 70 now. And, we still correspond now. And our dear sister, me and her used to walk. I found out when we did our DNA test, that I said, we always had this connection. Our families always had this connection. And we did our DNA. We found out we're cousins. She's Fulani as well. See? And we know there's other Fulanis because I saw now the famous actor, what's that brother's name? He's in that Law and Order program and some others. I can't think of brother's name. He's Fulani. He's from Compton as well. There's many Fulani. Even on my street, we had quite a few Fulani families there on our street. See? So we have a lot of Fulanis there inside the United States. And I explained why they were taken. The Toubab was wicked in his genius in that he knew, because many of the cattle farming and stuff like that, they needed experts on cattle. The Fulani are experts on cattle raising and grazing and how to treat the cattle. They knew that. So they took the Fulani from the corridor, in particular from the Savannah region and from Guinea and places like this, right? And then took them to the States. And this is what they did. And this is why we have a large Fulani population there in the United States. A large population. And many don't even know they're Fulani. But now many are taking DNA and they cry when they find out they're Fulani because they start to remember, just like me. I started looking at my mom's side of the family. You heard my story many times. I've talked about my mom's side of the family. I used to trip off them. I said, man, why do you look like this? Because my dad was very black. Because my dad was, descendants, Nigerian, Igbo people, and Yoruba, and the Omo people from Sudan and Chad. My dad's very, very black. And my grandmother was very dark brown, a little bit darker than me. See, so I started to see major difference. My mom was very light skinned. I see on her side, I seen how they look. Now we understand why they look like that. So it makes sense. Yes, there are many of us. That's right. Yes, my dear sister, that's right. And how can someone be DNA Fola and Moroccan derivative, but from Ethiopia Jews? Well, because modern times they travel. And you got to remember something else too. The Moroccans are Amazigh, which you call Berber, which is a bad word. It's like to be called the bad word, the N word, right? Don't call them that. They're Amazigh. The Amazigh people are from Africa. They call them, you can look it up, they call them the Mozab people. Mozab people. They left Egypt and they migrated to North Africa and they became the Amazigh. The Moroccans, the Algerians, the Tunisians, and so forth and so on. Okay? The Fulani people were also migrated from Africa. We know that as well. But the Fulani and the Tuareg and the Amazigh, we have similar. If you looked at my classes, I gave you evidence. We have sisters who are Fulani, but they're Amazigh in culture and language. See, we have that. And we have very similar cultures because, especially in the western corridor of the Sahel, brothers married the Amazigh woman, and the Amazigh man married the Fulani woman. We know this. So when you look at the DNA, this is why this like my composition. When my sister did her DNA, she was 25% Muzab. At the time, I didn't know, because I didn't know the term Muzab. I started to look it up. I found out ancient Egypt. They originate from ancient Egypt. They became the Amazigh. Okay, we know that. And so I saw that aspect. I started to see we have many cousins inside Egypt today, many cousins. And now I live here in Morocco 2 decades. I got cousins everywhere here that I'm related to. See, from the Fulani side and also from the Amazigh side on my mom's side. So this is how it is said. That means on the Moorish side they were not Muslims. No. The Morocco has been a Muslim state for since the 1000s. It was united. Finally, it was united. But Muslims, Moroccans were Muslims. There were villages here and there, but they were finally united by the Murabitun. If you look at my tape on this subject about when they went into modern day Spain called Andalus, they united all Maghreb, and became Muslim. And ever since that time in the 1000s, it's been a Muslim state. It's never left out of there. Even colonization, is still a Muslim state. So that means that the Moorish side, they weren't Muslim. No, that's not true. Did the DNA test, but didn't understand that. I don't understand, Henry. I'm kind of lost, my dear brother here. The test, okay, well, if you go to Jet Match, this is where I got a lot of deep analysis. Jet Match begin to explain more. The others tell you Mali, DNA testing company, they'll say you're from Nigeria, but they don't give you ethnic makeup. When I took the African test, it did give me a makeup. It gave me Fulani, Mende, Mendinka, but it wasn't sensitive enough. But when I got to Jet Match, which is a leading DNA company, Jet Match, many brothers thank me they went to Jet Match, and then they got their heritage. There, it gave me the deep analysis. And then I began to place it good. And then I found out from my heritage that I had a home base there in Morocco, which is Marrakesh. See, my home base. And so now it started to trigger more and more until I find there's people here I felt I had connection to. We start doing our DNA. I start finding out they're my cousins. Some of them are very pale and some are very black here on my group where I live now. 2 decades I've been here. So I got cousins ranging from very light-skinned to very dark. My wife, we're cousins. We're related. See, well, we're related from my mom's side because of the Amazigh blood. My mom had Amazigh blood. I told you my sister tested for 25% Amazigh, which is Mozab. She tested. See, so it's a very interesting situation. Okay, with the Fulani being nomadic people, we're all over the place. Yes, we're everywhere. We're everywhere. And if you looked at my program the other day, I was talking about ancient Kempt. I like to use Kempt instead of Egypt. Egypt is a name that the Europeans devised. Kempt is the name that our people gave it. There was analysis done that the Futufula people were actually, they left from the central part of Africa. Okay, way back when we start to move and start to spread out. We went from the central part to Kempt, across the Red Sea into quote unquote the Middle East. There we begin to cultivate the cattle. This is a theory that they came up with. They had evidence to suggest this. Then they came back into Egypt to stay in Egypt. And I showed you the other day, the husbandry and the cattle became a very important commodity in Kempt, in ancient Kempt. And they showed people great who were experts in raising the cattle. We took that expertise, left Egypt to go across into North Africa, into the Sahel, and into the Delta regions, right? See? So this is an interesting thing. If you look at my program the other day, I showed you a map, what they were talking about. And I showed you also a depiction of the hieroglyphics that they found of the cattle, because cattle was a big thing. And guess what? Who were managing the cattle? They were experts because they depended on milk, leather, and other byproducts from the cattle. That sounds very familiar, don't it? Very familiar. So those experts were the Fulani people. There's no doubt in my mind, because they took the expertise and went across into the Savannah region and so forth and so on, as we know today. So it's very, very interesting. Henry, these are the rolls for my jet match. A very cool tool. Thank you, brother. Yes. Yes. The jet match, brothers and sisters, those, and it's free. But unfortunately, you need to go to 23andMe and My Heritage and others to get your DNA, and then send your DNA samples to JetMatch, and you'll get a excellent, deep analysis. Deep analysis. And it'll make you whole, because now you'll know that you are Fulani and you got Hausa. It'll tell you where, okay, and it'll give you the percentages. Very, 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 very in-depth analysis for free. Very, very in-depth. See if there's any more questions, please feel free to ask that. And I'm just about ready to conclude matter of fact, if I can find the mysteries, I wanted to help our dear sister here, the Fulani. Okay, yeah, okay. Here is what I was talking about to help our dear sister who was talking about the Fulani people. When I was looking at this analysis that they're Jews who did this, Jews and some other Toubab, they were trying to figure out the Fulani people. And this is what I was talking about. In the green, they stopped from the central part of Africa. They moved across Kempt, modern day Egypt, into the Middle East. There, they developed the cattle and how to raise cattle. They entered back in the blue in Egypt, in Kempt. And then when the Exodus occurred, they began to go in North Africa, into the Sahel, and to the coastal West Africa. They went all the way down to the south. They went to Mozambique, as we know today. I even heard the Fulani communities are even in South Africa. This is what I understood, from what, and they don't call them Fulani or Fuleta. They call them other names. They have other names who they call them. And this here was the depiction of one of the hieroglyphics to show that they had experts who they depended on greatly, and this society who took care of animals was a major factor. It was a royalty, and they were very well treated, and so forth and so on. That's why I felt when I read about when the demise of Kempt, it was from invasions, yes, but the rise of Kempt is because many of the Africans, a great exodus occurred, and they began to go to West Africa, as you heard me talk about a couple of days ago. And the Fulani were no different. Them and the Amazigh left and went across North Africa and into the Sahel region with their cattle. See? And this is why, if you notice something, brothers and sisters, we have cattle that the Fulani raised is quite different than the cattle we have here in North Africa. And I'm wondering if anyone has done a DNA test on the cattle that we raise in the Sahel. Where is their origins? I'm curious, because you have cattle that are raised by the Fulani who are quite different than the cattle in the north and the cattle in the coastal regions. I saw that. Now, of course, it's been mixing, cattle mix and all that. But we still have some cattle that are totally different than the others. And I'm curious about the DNA of some of these camel. What is the genotype, not genotype, but What is their DNA makeup? Where did they originate from, this particular strain of cattle? I'm curious about that. But this is some of the things, brothers and sisters, that we talk about and whatnot, and we want to see Black folk prosper everywhere in the world. In this instance, I was talking about the past. In this instance, we're talking about today, and we want what we want to happen in the South. And so I'll do a recap, and then I will close. We talked about the southern states. We're saying that the Black people from Africa who want to come to the Americas, and the Africans already in America, you flood the southern states, buy land, begin to farm. Okay, this is a worthy occupation. It's very rewarding, and it garners money and rewards, because this is what the Toubab did. How did he get rich? He got rich off agriculture. Look how many generations. That wealth they accumulated from slavery, from agriculture, their families are still wealthy today. They imported these things and many other things and became wealthy from it. We do the same thing. We go back to this type of thing. They took enslaved Africans who were experts in rice, okra, and black-eyed peas, and cassava, and yams, and kidney beans. They took experts in that and enslaved our people and brought them to the Americas to do this on the farms there. See, so we have expertise in that. We do this. We talk about sugarcane. Sugarcane was not directly from Africa, but it made its way from Africa to other parts, and then it finally came into the Americas. We know that. We talked about the African marketplace. The African marketplace, we in the South, as we move to the southern states, we begin to create open markets like we do here in Africa today. Because you can buy everything, and the produce is cheaper. You fellowship with other Africans, and we grow our food, and we bring our food that we don't, or our brokers, say the brokers say we're going to sell our rice. I'm just saying, for instance, we have rice farmers, and we say we're going to sell 60% of our rice to our African brothers in the continent and other places around the world. Okay, a broker sells our rice. The others we sell at the open markets like this. We bring our rice, and brothers come in to buy rice from us. It could be a beautiful working relationship. It can be done, brothers and sisters. I talked about the African map, where the Africans are concentrated still to the south today. The reason why we're in a sorry state is because we have too many Africans living everywhere. But most of us we're scattered, but we still have the bulk of our people living in the South. We should return back to the South and carve out those states because they're ready for picking. They're poor, many of the states. Now, you hear me, I didn't talk much about Texas. Texas is a different world in itself. We're talking about, again, the core states of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina. That's where the rice and cassava, banana, all that can be in southern part of Arkansas. And of course, Louisiana, the southern part of Louisiana, they have sugarcane and rice, all that here. Brothers and sisters, you can buy land cheap in these areas. It's ready for us. It's ready for us to come back on the world stage again through agriculture. We'll become millionaires, and we'll be wealthy, and we'll have prestige. Because right now we're hurting. We have buying power, but we're still enriching Jews, Arabs, Chinese, Mexicans, Japanese, other Asians, other Hispanics. Everybody's making money off the Black Africans. Our money is going everywhere. Instead of it helping for us, we take our money, we take our buying power and start coming down to the South. You start buying 2 acres of land, okay, for cheap price, and you decide now to put something on it. You put black-eyed peas, or you put kidney beans or something like that there, okay, and go from there. This can be done, brothers and sisters. It's there for picking. Our traditional farmers for generations, we're trying to save them, but they have expertise. We know that they can help us They raise wheat and stuff like that. We're wheat farmers also. Brothers and sisters, we have forgotten about this. That's why they brought us the Fulani. They brought even Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba. They brought the West Coast Africans in droves who could raise cattle, farming, rice. We even have fishing husbandry. We have people who live off rivers. They know how to manage the rivers. We brought Africans into the States who are experts in fishing. They were wickedly genius in that regard. They were smart. The Portuguese became millionaires in their country. Their small little country became wealthy. It's not today, but it became wealthy at one time from being brokers for slavers. The slave man sends a letter to a broker. He says, look, I got money now. I need 30 Fulani people because I heard the Fulani people are good in cattle. He sends his people come to the corridor, and they come to kidnap Fulani to bring to Americas to manage the cattle. Another slave owner in southern part of Louisiana, he says, look, I have acres of land. I have rice. I need 100 rice farmers. The broker Portuguese goes down there and get those people and sell them to the Americans and put the 100 or more into those areas so they can raise in the rice. This is what I'm talking about, brothers. We forgot about this, and sisters. We forgot about this dynamic and how the Toubab became rich. You got to look at that. That was the basis of his riches, was agriculture. Nowadays, of course, it's other things. But how about sugar? They still run the sugarcane plantations. They making all this money off the sugar. And we can still do things. We can still do things. We have African Americans coming down to the South. We know that now, brothers and sisters. We have Africans coming down to the South and now starting to buy land and starting to farm. We have that. It's starting to happen, brothers and sisters. We started gradually doing that. See, so this is again but the big thing, brothers and sisters, I'm going to tell you right now, the rice, and I've been saying this, we laugh, but I'm going to tell you right now, you show me a place that don't eat rice. Everybody in the world eats rice. And we lost the market. The rice that the Americans brought to the slavers, they brought our rice strains with our African slaves to the Americas. And they made millions off rice. Millions. Brothers and sisters, you go get 1 acre of land and you make it to a rice paddy. You'd be surprised what that yield would be and how much money you will make off that. Because the brokers of rice have people everywhere. You will not grow, your product will be sold because the broker will put it out on the market, and rice is a big commodity. Ask the Thai people. They became millionaires off the rice. They formulated a new rice they call jasmine rice. We all eaten it. We have it here in Morocco. The jasmine rice, and look what happened to it. It just skyrocketed. We were experts on rice cultivation, and they took a lot. You're talking about thousands upon thousands of Africans from the corridor region and from what they call the rice belt, where they had thousands and thousands of acres of land, hectares of land, of rice land. Okay, and he took the slaves off that and brought them to the Americas. It's a big issue, brothers and sisters. And I got to thinking about it, and I said we should now go and return back to the South and entertain these ideas that I'm talking about today. So I'm hoping, brothers and sisters, that you guys got something out of this. Please subscribe to my station. I'm unorthodox. I cover a lot of topics that nobody talks about. I'll give you deep analysis. I have regular customers. They know how I am. I'm fiery, but I bring down the best I can. I try to give you history, African history. Now I'm bringing you back to the Americas. I just talked about Kemp, and I will go back to Kemp one more time. Maybe tomorrow I may have something. I'm not sure. I'll see. And I've been talking about ancient, and I've been talking about the Sahel region, but I had to talk about the Americas because we have African Americans who cannot make it to the continent, but they have money, and maybe they should not invest it to Africa now because why? The citizenship, you know what's going on. The Toubab has got us locked up. They won't give us citizenship in Africa. There's only a few of us gotten citizenship. When the Toubab walks in, he gets citizenship easy. Chinese, Indians, everybody gets Lebanese, everybody gets citizenship here in Africa. But the black man coming from America don't get it. That's starting to scare away the best talent because they said, well, why I'm going to invest? Well, you can take the land from me. And what has happened, like in Ghana, they came over there and they didn't give these people citizenship. They took their land from them. Okay. We know that one brother who opened up that big mini mart and put a big gas station that he had to go to court to save what he invested. They tried to throw him out. See, because they won't give him citizenship. We still have the slave mentality, but I'm giving you these facts, brothers and sisters, to say that the Africans there in America who cannot come, carve out the southern states. Okay, carve out those southern states, begin to buy up the cities, the freshman cities, buy up the farmland, which is dirt cheap there, and start to farm again. And we will have a big economic base. And don't laugh when you hear somebody talk rice or tomatoes or okra and beans and sugar cane. Okay, brothers and sisters, you go back and use your logic and ask the question, how did the Toubab make all this money and become a rich nation? From agriculture. From agriculture. And they saw that in us when they took us as slaves. The wickedness of the Toubab, it was a genius, but it was wickedness for taking another man's. We understand that. We know how brutal slavery was, but we're looking at it from the standpoint of logic. He came to West Africa because the Portuguese were experts because they had been coming to West Africa in the 1400s. It was them first who took the first African slaves. It wasn't the British, it was the Portuguese. They became experts and they had people inland and they began to watch. When the Americans began to come there to open up the land, they realized that there's certain crops that they felt it would grow. So they begin to import this and many other things. Brought African slaves to farm it, and they became millionaires. Those businesses turned into wine, beer businesses, and other businesses like Uncle Ben's Rice and all that kind of stuff, right? Aunt Jemima syrups and all this other stuff. They became millionaires. This is what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters. So I'll get ready to conclude. I see there's no more questions here. And this is talk, again, brothers and sisters, geared for the Africans who want to stay in America and the Africans who want to go to America, go to the South, buy your land there, brothers and sisters, farm. And those Africans who want to go to the Americas who have expertise in financing, farming, you go help your black brothers there, if this is what you want. Because there's many African Americans cannot come to the continent, not the way things are right now. You know, I still recommend that the African Americans come here because it's better for you, your health and everything else and your well-being. But I understand it's a difficult task, especially when our African leaders will not give us citizenship. It's wrong what they're doing to us. It's very wrong. See, but that's another story altogether. And that's another topic altogether in another day. So my brothers and sisters, you know, please subscribe to my station. Please pass this tape on and whatnot. Until the next time, Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.